ND2 Miata. What's done in this bad boy?
So what I've done to it is I got some wheels here. I got some coilovers.
Yeah.
The coilovers I picked just because there was a good price point was the Feal 411s with some Swift springs. I went to Miata the Gap and won a tune. So I got a tune from Fab 9 with using VersaTuner.
Oh, nice.
And then I just have an exhaust on there, and that's a Goodwin Racing. I think that
RoadsterSport.
RoadsterSport.
Yeah.
It's the race variant, so there's two different kinds. You can get one with a muffler tip, and that one doesn't have it. So
yeah, it sounds really nice. It's like a very healthy noise. 225 tire width. That's solid. It's the exact same as mine, actually.
Yeah, no, I think it's just a perfect amount. You can put 235s on them before you have to go a little crazy. I think 225 is perfect enough, especially for a daily. So
yeah, definitely. Stock sway bars, right?
Yep, stock sway bars. I do want to get them replaced probably this winter, but
yeah,
for now I'm happy with it.
Well, it looks really great. I love the black and bronze wheel combo. That's
the best combo.
It's the best combo. It's so good.
Yeah, when I saw the BBR thing in Europe, they have like decals on there. I was like thinking about, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I put like a bronze race stripe on it, but I don't know. I haven't decided. So
yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, it'll be a very good comparison to my NC. It's a little bit more modified, but I think personally I've always been interested in the NC versus the ND debate because you can pick up ND1s for basically the exact same price as like kind of a fully kitted out NC2. So definitely two very interesting cars, and we're just gonna rip around, have some fun. All right, we're taking out the NC first. This is obviously my car. It's a little bit more modified than the ND that we're going to drive. 6-speed manual, limited slip differential. I have a full exhaust. I actually don't know who's driving that. That's funny. Full exhaust, catless, double resonated mid-pipe, SuperQ muffler. I have a Track Dog Racing intake, tuned from Fab 9 using VersaTuner. I've also got Progress front and rear sway bars, as well as RoadsterSport long travel coilovers. I have the exact same tire size as the ND, so I think that's a very good comparison there. And for one, I love my NC Miata. There's definitely some issues with it, for sure. I think it's a little bit easier of a car to fit in, a little roomier inside. It's a good little car though. I really do like the NC Miata. I thought about getting an ND as well. If I'm going to get an ND, I would love to get an ND2 because it has a little bit of a higher red line. I think they sorted out some of the transmission issues from the ND1s. I personally really think the NC Miata is a good in-between. If you want sort of the raw driving experience of an NB Miata, but you still want to have something that's at least semi-modern, like the ND, but a touch below. This suspension is definitely made for the street. It's very, very soft. I think it's great as a, kind of daily driver that you can take to the track, but it definitely, it's got some body roll for sure. However, the trade-off is the compliance on the street. Watching this muscle car just like just roll. Very easy to heel and toe as well. I think the pedal box is spaced out nicely if for like aggressive driving. Where I think this car kind of falls apart though, I have been getting really annoyed with the positioning of the gas pedal. The transmission tunnel is kind of very intrusive in the footwell, and I find that like my legs just slowly kind of ache after a while. It's obviously a Miata, it's fairly slow, but you know, it sounds good with the exhaust. It falls apart a little bit up top. It would have been such a perfect car if it kept some of that top end power. I know some people actually put cams on these, and maybe it could use that, who knows? Again, very easy rev matching, heel and towing. Transmission's nice and easy. Sometimes it gets a little bit of clunk, but not too bad at all. You can find an NC1 for pretty cheap. I'd say like anywhere from 8,000 to, I don't know, 12,000. NC2s get a little bit more expensive. If you're thinking about getting one, I would definitely recommend an NC2. The engine is a little bit more improved. They have forged internals, so it's a little bit stronger. If you do want to add boost, you definitely can. So, I don't know. NC2s maybe like 14,000 or so, 12,000 for kind of a higher mileage one. It's got like a touch of roll on the corners, but like other than that, man, I love this car so much. I'm excited to drive an ND Miata back to back. I think it'll be a very interesting comparison. Sounds good. I really like the power retractable hardtop as well. I think if you're going to get an NC Miata, getting one with a power retractable hardtop is a good move if it's going to be a street car. That's kind of like my main thing. If you're going to use it for track, you know, you're not going to be able to fit a roll bar, so get a soft top. But I think it works very nicely as a street car. In terms of drivability, the NC is pretty easy to drive. I do think the footwell is a little bit cramped, even for me. I'm like 5'8". It's a Corvette back there. I'm like 5'8", and I really, I get a little bit uncomfortable in the pedal positioning. But other than that, I think the NC compared to the ND is very interesting because you have a little bit more room inside, whereas the ND is a lot more kind of spatially similar to like an NB or an NA Miata, where you're kind of tight, the cockpit is close. So that is one thing to consider. If you are like kind of a bigger guy, maybe an NC you might fit a little bit better. Even on all seasons, the car feels pretty confident. I'm getting this thing out on track in a week, but for today, it's gonna be a cool comparison to drive my NC Miata versus an ND. I'm gonna tell you guys the immediate differences that I feel. I haven't driven an ND in a while, so it's going to be a really good comparison just to hop out of an NC and hop into an ND. All right, we are now in a 2022 Mazda Miata. I, first and foremost, really love the NDs. I think I could definitely see myself owning one eventually. But I think this is gonna be a really cool comparison to drive them back to back. Right off the bat, immediately, the steering is a lot lighter. Especially at low speeds is what I've found. I think it's a little bit more vague, but I don't think it's anything that is like atrocious. It's not like that big of a difference. These coilovers are very stiff. They are set to full stiff, and it is a very bumpy ride. I haven't owned Feals before. I've heard good things about them, but definitely a very stiff ride. Inside the cockpit, they definitely did a lot more work on the footwell. With my NC, I find that I have some issues after a long day of driving. It feels a little bit cramped in the footwell. My right leg is squeezed into the center. The ND Miata feels a lot more ergonomic. I also prefer the ND steering wheel. It's a little bit more, I'd say, just sports car-like. It's smaller. I think it's a better bolstered and feeling steering wheel. Overall, the cockpit, I think, is just much more improved in terms of the ergonomics, the feel of it. These seats are a lot heavier with the bolstering. I think they're also more comfortable seats. So definitely, it's a much more comfortable place to sit. It is more cramped though. I feel like I'm kind of being squeezed by the car, but as an actual driving position, I definitely prefer the ND Miata 100%. It also sounds very good. The throttle is a little lazier than my NC. You have to kind of hold it there when you're doing a rev match. Sounds very good though. It's a good sounding engine. RoadsterSport exhaust, and I think he has a Helmholtz resonator on it, and it sounds very good. This shifter as well is a little different. It's kind of a little bit more notchy, and it's much more consistent than my NC, which I definitely appreciate. I think it's a very easy car to drive, especially with the clutch. It's very, you just hop in it and you can kind of just go. This is a sport model, so that means that we actually do not have an LSD. Wow. So with this Fab 9 tune on VersaTuner, it actually revs to 7,400, and it feels like it revs. This thing revs pretty high. The owner got a sport model because he's going to put an aftermarket LSD in, and I think that makes a lot of sense. He's also going to be doing a bucket seat, and yeah, man, I think this car just, it's a little bit more nimble. Man, it just revs and revs. That is one really big difference between this and the NC. This engine, it feels like it wants to be up high in the RPMs. Whereas my NC definitely, it does it. It doesn't do it that happily, but it does it. It's a really interesting experience driving these immediately back to back. Heel towing position is also very easy for this car. There is like zero body roll at low speeds, which does make it a little, bouncy. I think it could be improved. But overall, if this is sort of a track tool, more power to you. I really like the gauge cluster as well. Having the tack right in the middle, it's great. It reminds me of my old Civic Si, actually, having it right in the middle. It's a good look. That's kind of the main thing that I'm picking up from this car is it's so bouncy. They work so much on the ergonomics of this to where it just feels like you're more connected to the car. All right, let's see some of this power. Man. This definitely feels quicker, 100%. It's making more power for sure. And especially at the top end of things, this just feels so much livelier. I love my NC. I could definitely see myself buying an ND2 or an ND3 eventually. It's just in my opinion, if you can splurge on it, it makes a little bit more sense. But when you think about the pricing, a clean ND2 right now is maybe like 18,000 to like 24,000 or even higher for some of the newer like models and trims. It is a little tough to make that leap, but if you can, I feel like an ND is kind of like a no-brainer if I'm being honest. It's got a lot of torque too. Once you tip into the throttle, it really does kind of push you back. Good brake feel as well. It's a little bit more of a firm pedal than my NC. Yeah, it does feel a little lighter on its feet around corners. I mean, it's definitely stiffer suspension, but even in terms of just the initial steering like tip in right when you turn in, this feels a lot happier to just kind of change direction. And this doesn't even have sway bars, it only has coilovers. So I'm feeling a little bit spoiled driving this ND2. Driving my NC home might be a little, you know, I'm just kidding. I like my car. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Shout out to Aaron for letting me rip his ND2. This was an absolute blast. I really enjoyed getting to drive my car and this car back to back. It's an interesting comparison for sure. Personally, I'm still very content with my decision to get an NC, but one day I will be probably getting an ND. You know, I likely will. And if that says anything to you, if you can afford an ND and you're debating should I get an NC, if you can afford an ND, man, I don't know, I would just grab an ND personally. But thank you again, appreciate it. Have a good one.